NASA has just confirmed the impossible. A newly detected interstellar object, designated 3I Atlas, has altered its course, and for reasons no one can explain, it's now moving directly toward Earth. You heard that right. An object from outside our solar system has changed trajectory in a way that defies every known law of celestial mechanics. The announcement came in the middle of the night, after a series of encrypted communications between NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the European Space Agency. Inside the control rooms, alarms went off as telemetry feeds began to flicker. Then, silence. For almost 7 minutes, all communication with the Deep Space Network went dark. At first, scientists thought it was a system glitch. But when the data stream resumed, the numbers made no sense. 3I Atlas, a rock that was supposed to pass harmlessly through the outer edges of the solar system, had suddenly adjusted its velocity against gravity, against inertia, against logic itself. Objects don't just decide to change direction, one NASA insider said anonymously. Something made it do that. The coordinates, once stable, were now pointing unmistakably toward Earth's orbital path. In leaked internal memos, engineers described a patterned anomaly in the object's signal, pulses at fixed intervals, resembling binary code. The data files were immediately classified, restricted to Level 7 access only. A few fragments, however, slipped through the cracks and reached independent researchers. One of them, Dr. Helen Marquez from MIT, claims she decoded part of the signal. It wasn't random noise, it was a sequence, repeated 3 times. And translated loosely, it formed a chilling phrase. "We are coming." Meanwhile, an unexplained power surge hit several observatories across the globe almost simultaneously. The Keck Observatory in Hawaii, the ALMA Array in Chile, even the James Webb Telescope, all reported distortions in their instruments the very moment 3I Atlas altered its course. Coincidence? Or something far more deliberate? On social media, fragments of the internal NASA feed began to circulate before being taken down within minutes. One clip showed a monitor flashing with red text, "Orbital intersection confirmed." The next frame cut to static. Since then, official channels have gone silent. No further statements, no press briefings, nothing. Only whispers. Whispers that some kind of containment protocol has been activated, involving NORAD and Space Command. People are asking questions that no one dares to answer. How can a rock from interstellar space move with intention? Who or what is guiding it? Could it be technology, a probe, a vessel? Or is it something entirely beyond human understanding? Satellite images released briefly by a European observatory show what appears to be a faint blue halo surrounding 3I Atlas, an energy signature inconsistent with known asteroid compositions. Some speculate it's ionized plasma. Others believe it's something else, something alive. But here's what no one can deny. The object is accelerating, faster than any natural body ever recorded. Its current trajectory intersects Earth's orbit in less than 3 weeks. 3 weeks until something enters our skies that no one can explain. And yet, the world remains eerily calm, because the public doesn't know. NASA's public live streams have been quietly taken offline. Data from the Deep Space Network is now encrypted end-to-end. Even amateur astronomers report being unable to access real-time feeds, as if someone somewhere doesn't want us to see what's coming. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet unease in the air. The sense that something vast is moving behind the curtain of normal life. You look at the stars tonight, and they seem different, closer, watching. And then came the final update from the Atlas Observatory before the feed went dark completely. A single line of text, time-stamped at 0217 UTC. Trajectory confirmed. Atmospheric entry, probable. But what followed next, what the cameras captured in those last 12 seconds, would change everything we thought we knew about the universe. The footage that leaked from the Atlas Observatory lasted only 12 seconds, yet it sent shock waves through every research center on Earth. The frame was grainy, distorted by static, but something was there. Behind the pixel noise, you could see a silhouette, faint, metallic, irregular. It didn't tumble like a rock. It adjusted. It stabilized. The image froze just before the feed cut out, and for an instant the object emitted a pulse, a flash so bright it saturated every sensor, every wavelength. Then, black. The next morning, the world woke up to silence from NASA. No briefings, no clarifications, just a cryptic message on their official site: system maintenance in progress. But the independent trackers didn't stop. Across Europe and Asia, civilian telescopes confirmed what no one wanted to believe. The object had changed its trajectory again, this time performing a deliberate correction, as if it were aiming. A leaked document, reportedly from the European Space Agency, labeled the event as Upsilon Sequence 3, an internal code name for an unidentified controlled maneuver in deep space. Inside the document, coordinates were listed, matching not Earth's orbit in general, but a specific corridor, the L1 Lagrange point, where solar observation satellites maintain balance between Earth's and the Sun's gravity. It's a strategic vantage point, and 3I Atlas was heading straight for it. Data analysts reviewing the frequency logs noticed something even more unsettling. During each shift in trajectory, a narrowband radio signal accompanied the motion. The signal repeated at exactly 1420 MHz, the hydrogen line the universal channel scientists use to search for extraterrestrial communication. Coincidence? Hardly. The signal itself contained a pattern of intervals: 7, 1, 3, 1, 7. The same numbers repeated in reverse 5 minutes later. Palindromic, intentional. One internal JPL memo described it as structured, recursive, and self-referential. Another marked classified, internal eyes only, contained a phrase now echoing through underground forums: the object is transmitting awareness. By the second day, the Deep Space Network began to pick up micro-variations in the signal, fluctuations that appeared to react when human commands were sent toward it. When an automated probe from the Lunar Gateway transmitted a ping on the same frequency, the object responded by repeating the signal back, delayed by exactly 3.14 seconds. The number was too specific to ignore. PI, a universal constant, a message written in the language of the cosmos. As scientists scrambled to explain, things began to spiral. A data leak from the Japanese Aerospace Agency revealed that the Hayabusa 2 probe, millions of kilometers away, detected a brief magnetic pulse in sync with 3I Atlas's signal. It wasn't just light anymore. It was interference, strong enough to distort instruments. NASA attempted to re-establish visual contact using the James Webb telescope, but within minutes of targeting coordinates, Webb's onboard systems automatically shut down its optical sensors. Engineers claimed it was a software safeguard. Others whispered it was something else, an override triggered remotely. Someone or something didn't want us to look. By now, rumors had spread that a Level 4 emergency council had been formed between NASA, ESA, and Space Command. No media coverage, no official acknowledgement. But flight paths of classified U.S. satellites changed abruptly that night. Several realigned toward the object's predicted route. Independent astronomer Ethan Blake streamed live from Arizona, showing the faint streak of light that had no right to be there. His voice trembled as he zoomed in. It's not reflecting sunlight. It's emitting it. The stream went viral for 2 hours. Then it disappeared. His entire channel vanished. Even archive mirrors were erased. The question everyone's now afraid to ask is the one that keeps echoing in the dark corners of the internet. If this object can change its course, if it can respond, if it knows we're watching, what does it want? And tonight, as radio telescopes go silent one by one, as data feeds vanish behind layers of encryption, one final report emerges from a private observatory in New Zealand. Their last log entry reads, object stabilized, velocity constant, emission, harmonic, transmission, repeating human voice patterns. They shut down their systems after that. But before the feed went offline, one last fragment of audio escaped, a distorted whisper buried in the static. It said, "Do not follow us." But the scientists didn't listen, because the next step, the one they took just hours later, proved that 3i Atlas wasn't just passing by. It was waiting. It started as whispers, stray remarks from experts who should have known better than to speak. Then the silence cracked. The first to break ranks was Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, one of NASA's senior orbital mechanics specialists. In a leaked audio call, his voice trembled as he said, "This thing isn't moving through space. It's navigating it." Hours later, the recording was pulled from every platform. But by then, it had already spread. Something was changing behind the scenes, and those who understood the scale of it could no longer sleep. Elon Musk was next. During a late-night live stream meant to discuss SpaceX's Starlink expansion, he paused mid-sentence, looking off-camera for a full 7 seconds. The chat exploded. Thousands of viewers asking what was wrong. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, distant. "We're not alone in this sky anymore." The stream cut out seconds later. No replay, no archive. The channel issued a statement blaming interference. Yet within hours, Musk's private jet was tracked, leaving for the Johnson Space Center under military escort. Meanwhile, theoretical physicist Michio Kaku gave an interview that would later be scrubbed from television archives. His words were calm, almost philosophical, yet they chilled millions who caught it live. If an object demonstrates control over its trajectory without propulsion, it's no longer a rock. It's a mind. He paused, looking straight into the camera. And if it's communicating, then it's aware. The question is, aware of what? By now, a select group of astrophysicists, data analysts, and private contractors had been summoned under the guise of a multi-agency coordination task. Insiders called it Project Echo Glass. Their mission, to decode the patterns coming from 3i Atlas. But even before the work began, anomalies surfaced. During one of the decoding sessions, the AI model tasked with interpreting the signal crashed repeatedly, generating a final line of text before shutting down completely. "We are observing the observer." Dr. Marquez from MIT, the same scientist who had decoded the earlier binary pulses, appeared on a podcast just before disappearing from public view. She spoke quickly, nervously, her eyes darting off-screen. "It's not just a message," she said. "It's a feedback loop. Every time we analyze it, the signal changes. It's adapting to our methods. It's learning from us." The host tried to laugh it off, but Marquez only whispered, "We're teaching it who we are." Then came the witnesses, amateur astronomers, pilots, even satellite technicians. In one recorded air traffic transmission, a pilot over the Pacific reported a bright formation pacing his altitude. Ground control told him it was likely a reflection from the ISS, but his next words were barely audible under static. "It turned with me." That recording never made it to public channels. A technician at the Canberra Deep Space Network described something even stranger. During a calibration test, he claimed the signal from 3i Atlas began echoing his own voice, delayed by several seconds, as if the object were repeating him. He said he heard himself ask, "Who are you?" And the reply came back distorted. The same phrase twisted through the static. "Who are you?" Hours later, he was suspended for security violations. Inside NASA, fear had begun to seep into the upper levels. Anonymous insiders reported that engineers were ordered to isolate communication systems and shut down all AI-based signal analysis tools. Too late. A whistleblower from Space Command revealed that every time scientists tried to jam the transmission, the signal simply shifted frequencies, always one step ahead, always listening. By this point, major media networks had been instructed to remain silent. Yet fragments of truth escaped through encrypted forums and leaked chat logs. A now-deleted message, allegedly from a SpaceX engineer, read, "It's not just coming toward us. It's already here, in our systems." Elon Musk's final public statement came days later. A single post. One sentence. "The stars are talking back." It was deleted within minutes. His account went dark. But perhaps the most haunting revelation came from a scientist whose name was never confirmed. A video surfaced briefly on the dark web, showing a dimly lit lab filled with monitors. The figure in the video said only this: "They told us to stop transmitting. But what if they were never listening through the signal? What if they were listening through us?" And then the video ended, replaced by a frame of digital noise and a sound that some claim still haunts them when they close their eyes. A rhythmic pulse, repeating the same pattern again and again. 7, 1, 3, 1, 7. But Elon Musk wasn't the only one who knew. Someone else had already tried to warn the world long before any of this began. And what they discovered about 3i Atlas was never meant to be seen. For weeks, the world had been living in a quiet, uneasy denial. The news networks stayed silent. The governments rehearsed. But inside the sealed rooms of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, something had shifted. The data from 3i Atlas wasn't just noise anymore. It had structure, meaning. It was responding. At first it was subtle, a pattern mirroring the timing of human transmissions, almost like an echo. Then it began to evolve. When scientists adjusted their signal frequency, the object adapted within seconds, realigning its own output in perfect sync. A back and forth began, a silent exchange across the cosmic void. One engineer described it later, off the record, as a conversation without words. But soon, the message changed. The binary strings that once seemed random started repeating a phrase when decoded using the same linguistic models designed for deep space communication. The words were faint, imperfect, but unmistakable. "You are late." Panic rippled through the control teams. Systems began to fail one by one, not from power surges or overloads, but from something far stranger. Spontaneous data corruption that didn't obey normal logic. Entire databases went blank, then refilled themselves with identical copies of prior readings, looping infinitely. The analysts called it digital recursion. Others whispered another name: infection. Then, something impossible happened. At 0211 UTC, during a low-band transmission test from the Madrid deep space antenna, 3i Atlas replied, not with static, not with numbers, but with a human voice. Male, calm, steady. The exact voice of Dr. Marquez, the MIT scientist who had vanished days earlier. It spoke just 3 words before the line went dead. Do not respond. NASA sealed the logs immediately, but by then fragments of the voice transmission had leaked to the European press. Within hours, every copy was scrubbed from the Webb. The few who heard it before it vanished said the voice carried a delay, a strange resonance, as if it wasn't being broadcast, but generated. Meanwhile, internal footage from one of the telescopes monitoring 3i Atlas showed something even more disturbing. The object's trajectory wasn't constant anymore. It was fluctuating, changing shape, as if reacting to observation itself. Each time a new array tried to capture an image, the readings diverged. To one sensor, it appeared metallic. To another, gaseous. The longer they looked, the less it resembled anything known. Then the James Webb Telescope, briefly reactivated under classified authorization, caught a final glimpse before going offline. The image lasted only seconds before the feed turned to static. But one frame was recovered, decrypted from the raw cache. It showed what analysts described as a lattice, a geometric structure, pulsing with internal light. Like architecture, like a signal made solid. Within 24 hours, all public access to Webb's data was terminated. The servers at the Goddard Center were physically disconnected from the global network. Even the backup archives were reportedly purged. Employees who asked questions were reassigned or silenced under non-disclosure orders. The official explanation? Routine data maintenance. But those who were there tell another story. They say something else came through the signal that night, not just data, but intent. The system's AI began producing spontaneous responses, sentences it was never programmed to generate. Lines like, observation acknowledged, parameters accepted, sequence initiated. And then, nothing. Every terminal went black simultaneously. Backup power failed. Emergency generators shut down. In the darkness, someone swore they heard a faint tone. The same 1420 megahertz signal, now emanating not from the receivers, but from the walls themselves, as if the building had become part of the broadcast. When power was restored, the display screens showed a single message centered on every monitor in the lab. No logo, no code, just 5 words. We remember who you are. After that, NASA ordered all transmissions to cease. All global communication with 3i Atlas was terminated. But the silence that followed was not relief. It was dread. Because the object, without further input, began to accelerate again, directly toward Earth. Governments called emergency meetings under the guise of solar activity preparedness. The Vatican Observatory went into lockdown. Even SpaceX delayed all upcoming launches indefinitely. No one was talking, but everyone was watching. And then, 3 days later, at exactly 03:33 UTC, a deep space relay in Australia picked up something new. A pulse. Fainter this time, shorter, repeated every 91 seconds. When decoded, it formed a single word in perfect English. Now. Moments later, the sky above the southern hemisphere lit up with a silent flash. A bloom of ionized light, like aurorae stretching where they shouldn't be. Power grids flickered, communications dropped. And in those brief seconds of blinding illumination, observatories across the world caught the same thing. 3I Atlas had stopped, completely. No motion, no rotation, just stillness. And then, it began transmitting again. But this time, it wasn't numbers. It wasn't binary. It was something else entirely. A harmonic frequency resembling the human heartbeat. The scientists hesitated only once before responding. And that was the moment everything changed. For 37 hours after the last response, the world stood still. Governments called it a solar data blackout. Power grids flickered, flights were grounded, and for the first time in history, the deep space network went completely silent. Every telescope, every array, every antenna aimed at the stars, disconnected. Humanity, by design or by fear, had chosen silence, but 3I Atlas did not. At 0409 UTC, the object began to transmit again, a steady, rhythmic pulse across all frequencies, perfectly aligned with Earth's magnetic field. It wasn't random. It was synchronization. Across continents, seismic sensors and electrical systems recorded faint vibrations matching the same pattern. Every heartbeat on the planet, every electromagnetic circuit, seemed to resonate for a fraction of a second in unison. Then came the sound, a deep, resonant hum that wasn't coming from the sky but from within the atmosphere itself, like the air had begun to remember a song it was never supposed to sing. NASA's last internal communication before the blackout was a simple instruction: do not engage. But someone did. Somewhere in the Indian Ocean, a private research vessel linked to SpaceX's Horizon initiative sent one final transmission into the void. A single encoded question: what are you? The answer came instantly. Every radio telescope on Earth, every dish, every receiver, even those long offline, activated at once, forced into synchronization. The response was a cascade of frequencies that no one could decipher at first. But when converted into an image, the result left even the most skeptical minds trembling. It was Earth, our planet, surrounded by concentric rings of light, expanding outward like ripples in time. Inside those rings were symbols, not letters, not numbers, but shapes, patterns that looked eerily familiar. DNA strands, neural pathways, circuit traces, as if something out there had been mapping us. Then, silence again. No pulses, no radiation, no motion from 3I Atlas. Just quiet. For 12 minutes, humanity held its breath, until suddenly the object ignited, not with fire, but with light. Thousands of observation points, from Chile to China, confirmed it simultaneously. The object was breaking apart, but not disintegrating. The fragments weren't scattering randomly. They were forming alignment, a geometric pattern, a message written across the void itself. Dr. Marquez, reappearing in a live feed that was supposedly pre-recorded, spoke just one line before vanishing from the screen. It's not arriving, it's awakening. Then every transmission cut. For nearly 2 hours there was nothing. No data, no telemetry. The night sky was normal again, almost too normal. Until 0644 UTC, when the first global satellite arrays rebooted automatically. What they saw was impossible. The object had vanished from every coordinate. No trace, no debris. Only one residual signal, still echoing faintly on the hydrogen line. The pattern was no longer binary. It was harmonic, organic, like breathing. In the days that followed, small anomalies began to surface. Unexplained interference in GPS systems, rhythmic flickers in power lines, whispering tones and background static. And everywhere, from New York to Nairobi, people reported the same dream. Standing beneath a night sky pulsing with blue light, hearing a voice say, "We never left." NASA, the ESA, and Space Command all released identical statements. No credible threat detected. But their observatories remained closed. The James Webb Telescope, once a symbol of our cosmic curiosity, was permanently decommissioned for safety calibration. The official reason? Data corruption. The unofficial truth? It wouldn't stop transmitting, even when powered off. Weeks later, the final audio log from the Deep Space Network surfaced anonymously online. The voice was distorted, layered with static, but the words were clear. A male voice, calm and steady, the same one that had warned them not to respond. "You reached out. You taught us your signal. Now we remember." Then came a single tone, pulsing in time with a human heartbeat. It slowed, faded, and stopped. The world never officially acknowledged what happened. No press conferences, no commemorations, only silence, the kind that feels like something waiting beneath it. Today, if you listen to the faint hiss between radio stations late at night, you might catch it. That rhythm, that low hum, that impossible pattern still echoing from somewhere just beyond the noise. The signal hasn't stopped. It never did. And no one knows who it's meant for now.